Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey, welcome back to Joe on Joe. We are back for part 2 of the Worlds Without End crossover with my guest, once again, Mr. Aaron Harvey.
Hello.
Aaron, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We are recording live from your wood panel den.
Yes.
Where every week, is it weekly? Is your show
It's
weekly?
bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. Every week, every other week, you unleash on the world a podcast called Saturday Morning Trek.
Yes.
And it is all about Star Trek.
It's Star Trek, the animated series, and then eventually we're transitioning into the rest of the 1970s, the movies that were never made, the TV show that was never made, the toys and records that were made.
Would you say the 1970s were a dark time for Star Trek?
I would say it was a transition period for Star Trek because when you think about it, there was only a few years in between actual Star Trek and the animated series. And when you think about if you're thinking about television, we haven't had a Star Trek since 2005.
Yeah.
And we've got one coming up in 2017. So we have a lot longer gap. I mean, we've had the movies, but if you're talking TV and, Star Trek culture was still there. And it was when everybody was starting conventions and building up fan bases. And that's kind of when all modern kind of convention culture has started.
Well, they credit Star Trek fandom for saving Star Trek, right? I mean,
yes.
It's the fandom that kept Trek alive.
B. Jo Trimble and her husband John were running, I believe it was Lincoln Enterprises, that was sort of their Star Trek.
I was hoping you were going to say Moonshine.
No. They were running cells that were leftover film cells. Actually, they weren't running them. Majel Barrett, I think, eventually took the company over, but they kind of did a lot of stuff with fandom, and they were the ones who organized all the letter writing to get I believe the third season to continue on the original series, and help to keep it, get it syndicated, and all the just basic fandom in general. And it's like it showed that there was a desire to see more of this, and that's what started the let's make a movie, let's make a TV show, let's make a movie, and then we finally get a TV show.
And did the fandom lead to the cartoon, or was the cartoon already in the works before the fandom kind of rescued it?
No, the cartoon, they actually had considered doing a cartoon during the third season of the original series. We call it TAS 69, which I don't know what it actually was called. If it had, if Star Trek itself had been doing better, it might have been produced. But Gene Roddenberry also didn't like the idea because it was pairing each of the Enterprise crew with a cadet. So it's sort of like the grown-up kid thing. And
got it, yeah.
And it was just
it was a big thing.
We don't want to make it about kids. And so the idea of the animated series was still around. And
then explain Wesley Crusher.
No, Gene Roddenberry wanting to live out his youth again explained Wesley Crusher, basically. There's a term in Star Trek called the Mary Sue, and that's a character who is written as a kind of a conduit for whoever's writing. It's like, they're the best person in Starfleet, and they can save the day and everything. It's like that became Wesley. And
I didn't know that was a Star Trek.
Yep. That's where
I've heard the term.
It was
Mary
a
Sue.
fan fiction where somebody had written like this fake Mary.
And Mary Sue was her name, and she was awesome and everything.
And did
really?
everything,
I had no idea that.
I can't remember if it was supposed to be a joke about those kind of stories or if it was literally a story that just got then taken as the.
I would think that the way most things happen is it was stone serious.
Yeah.
Like Jumping the Shark was stone serious.
Right.
And that's why it became something. The movie The Room was stone serious. But then when Tommy Wiseau hello, Aaron.
Hello,
Aaron. Nice to meet you.
Why?
Oh, why? Oh, hi, doggy. You're tearing me apart, Lisa.
That's
like he's stone serious doing that stuff.
Yeah.
But when he does something purposefully, quote, funny, it's terrible.
There was a big billboard above Golden Apple for a very long time
yeah,
with The
that's why
Room
I
on it.
understand it forever.
And I'm like, what is this play? Why will not go? Why is it? How is it not closed?
Listen, according to the DVD box, which I love that movie so much, it's got all the passion of a Tennessee Williams play. It's all the passion of Tennessee Williams. So get ready for it. They're doing a movie about that. Do you know what this?
No.
The book was called The Disaster Artist. I'm not sure. I don't think that's going to be the title of the movie, but it's James Franco.
Oh, of course.
I think James Franco is playing Tommy Wiseau.
I believe that James Franco is playing virtually everyone in every movie.
I can't wait for this movie. It's, ladies and gentlemen, listening to Joe and Joe, it's a divergence. But if you've never seen the movie The Room, if you've only heard about it, It's so worth your time. Seek it out. You'll be a better person.
You'll understand like 90% of Mystery Science Theater jokes or riff tracks.
Oh, hi, Tommy. You're my favorite customer. I didn't recognize you. If you're the favorite customer, how do you not recognize him? A man who looks so shockingly frightening. Okay.
He does sort of look like Zartan's like mutated.
He does look. He looks like Zartan.
On Hard Times.
He looks like Zartan and Gene Simmons had a baby.
There you go.
There's your Tommy Wiseau for you.
And there's your G.I. Joe tie-in.
Yes. So you grew up. What part of the world? You Minnesota?
No. I lived in Minnesota for a few years. Mostly, that's actually when G.I. Joe started. When I lived in Minnesota.
Okay.
But I lived in Washington State for a good deal of that.
Great,
so.
great. And
Seattle, Vancouver.
What did you grow up watching? Besides, I'm sure, Star Trek.
Kind of everything. Like my early memories are like of live action, Land of the Giants, which is sort of cartoon-ish, but
Those stop motion stuff, right?
no, Land of the well,
Didn't they do stop
no, they
motion
had
on it,
like
or no?
giant props.
Oh.
The idea was that
They use like scale to like
Yes.
So they would shoot it really close to the lens and right.
Depending, yeah, or
how
sometimes
they
they would
did
have
it?
the big hand that would come to grab them, which is clearly a
Right.
big rubber hand on a crane, and they're like, "Okay, let me stand still so you can grab me." Yeah, it was Irwin Allen, and the idea was that there was a supersonic or hypersonic transport between New York and L.A., which I think later changed from London to L.A. or London to New York or something. The story changed when they retold it later, which was interesting. And they go through some sort of like cosmic cloud when it goes kind of up above the atmosphere, and it sends them into a world that's very much like Earth, but is populated by giant people. And they're sort of wanted. And
That's the premise of Land of the Giants?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yep. In the first year, I think you couldn't even understand what the Giants. It was more like kind of the Charlie Brown,
Yeah.
And then later they had to have
I
stories.
never
where they,
realized that was
Yeah.
the premise of that show. Was it Super Train? Was that it? Was that how Super Train traveled?
No, Super Train was a nuclear-powered passenger train, which seems real smart. And that was sort of Love Boat on a train. Oddly enough, later that year, like 2 months later, there was another train-based TV. Apparently, the late 70s was just obsessed with trains.
Trains and trucking.
Yeah, this one's even more obscure than Super Train, because Super Train's actually on tape or something like that. It was Vincent Price was the host. Yeah. And it was a train that traveled through time, and it basically took you where you needed to be, and you could
Shut up.
So it's sort of like
So that's Fantasy Island on a train.
Fantasy Island.
So you
on
had
a
Love
train.
Boat on a train
Yep.
and Fantasy Island on a
Yep.
train.
But the problem is that it was Love Boat on a train that they tried to also make it the mystery movie of the week.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just it. There's some great clips online if you just want to go fall down a YouTube hole. Look up Super Train NBC. It's the show that nearly destroyed the network because it was the most expensive television show on
Fabulous.
it all. Yeah, and they spent millions of dollars on this set to make it look like it was a hypersonic train, which I think it actually goes slower than the Acela train now, which is funny. And either like you hear Gene Shalit goes, "Well, it's better be a winner for the network because they put this much," and it died after like 7 episodes or something.
Oh, that's amazing.
So yeah, so that was great.
It's amazing. So you watched Land of the Giants.
Yeah,
What else?
and cartoon-wise, pretty much everything. I was big into Robotech, which I liked because it had a like kind of a story arc, and the characters
yeah.
grew and died,
And they looked amazing.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
really cool. And I
It
love
was like
the
Sky
technology.
Strikers come to life.
Yeah, I like that. I had an unreasonable interest in Inspector Gadget for a short period of time. I don't know why. And here's something I've never told anyone on any kind of podcast.
Oh no, get ready for it. A
I was
revelation.
president of the International Inspector Gadget fan club for a short period of time.
Hot up.
Don Adams called me when I was in the hospital once.
Shut up.
Yes.
That is amazing. That is so great.
And I look at it now and I'm like, what was my fascination with this show? Maybe it was like Penny and her iBook, basically.
The
or
show,
her,
Inspector Gadget was awesome.
Okay. It was fun. Yes,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
But like compared to some of the other stuff I watched, it's like, wow, this is.
It was very
yeah.
repetitive. It wasn't like mature storytelling, but
Yeah.
it was fun and it had great voices and great
Yes.
gadgets. The gadgets were cool.
I think part of the thing too is that it was one of the first fandoms that I got to interact with the people who created it. Gene Chalopin or whatever the person's name is. You see it in all the Deke cartoons. He would write me.
Deke.
Yeah.
Deke did the second season of the
Yes,
second
I was
iteration
I was gonna
of
bring
G.I.
that
Joe,
up. Yeah.
and it's
was not good.
bad times.
Yeah.
Bad times.
But the fact that I got to interact with these people and talk with them, and they told me about this new show that was coming out called Mask, which was really cool.
Love it. Yeah.
So I had that kind of, and that was my first taste of like, oh wait, this show is made by people and created. You know, like maybe I could do that one day.
So here's a question: how do you start a fan club in what's that, like 1985, 86, something like that? When there's no internet, how do you go about doing that? How did you do that? What was that journey?
Well, I didn't create the Inspector Gadget fan club. That was Deke.
Well, then how did you get to become president?
Because I wrote them a lot, I guess. I don't know. They had me, and then they had a vice president, and they had a newsletter that they sent out.
Yeah.
So it similar to what they would have done with Star Trek. You'd either have a fan group that created their own like Xerox copies of things and took them to stores, or had a mailing list.
Okay.
Or you would do an ad in like the back of Starlog magazine or something
Okay.
like that, and they had kind of like the classifieds, and you have little small things. So if you were like, it's the Starbase Atlanta or something like that, and so anybody who was in Atlanta could sign up. And
so what were your duties as president of the Inspector Gadget fan club?
I don't think we had any. I don't really to me it was an honorary title.
Yeah,
it was. It's I drew some pictures and it was in the newsletter.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
I love it. Like it's because you hear about it, like you would read about it back then, like, and now with
and
the
who
internet,
knows, maybe it could have been made to placate us to get us to stop writing them. Who knows?
or
I
that.
don't know.
Sure, yeah. Like we got another letter from the Harvey kid.
Yeah.
Throw it in the stack.
Pesky Pasco to tie into
Pasco,
our,
tie into our writer of today's episode of G.I. Joe. Did you watch a lot of G.I. Joe when you were a kid?
I did watch a lot of G.I. Joe. I watched, G.I. Joe, Thunder. Sorry, that's another one.
Thundercats?
Yes, but Thundercats. Pretty much anything that was on at that point. Gem and the Holograms, even.
Awesome.
So anything that had a toy tie-in was kind of.
And did you collect the Joe toys?
I did collect the Joe toys.
What kind of collection did you have? Tell me about it.
I'm going to apologize for not knowing the names of the things anymore.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, don't worry about that.
I had like the little. It was the helicopter that was, I think, in the last episode that had the missile launchers off the side. The
Cobra Claw, the white one.
The black one.
That's the Fang.
The Fang.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
The Fang. We had because my brother and I kind of had both. We ended up, we
Sure.
get them all together and then we trade them. So we had the hovercraft that didn't hover.
Killer whale. Awesome.
The killer whale that
Hovered
sunk
for me, son.
Huh?
It hovered for me.
We think it had a break in the plastic baffle or something inside of it. But
Your brother just filled it. It had that hatch on the bottom.
Yeah.
He just filled it with rocks.
There you go. No, but it was fun because you take it in the pool and then you had the Joe character figures that actually kind of floated if you brought them down right, and they had the air bubble go inside, so they would be neutrally buoyant. So we had that as like sort of their floating base.
Well, they had that had the cool sled in front where you push the button down.
Yeah.
And it would shoot out the front. Yeah, that was awesome.
There was that. Let's see. I had a lot of figures. That was kind of the big thing for me, and I like the cards and the story of the characters. There was.
Do you still have any of them? Are they still around?
Some of them were stolen when I had the people who know me know this story. Last year, no, I guess it'll be 2 years ago now. My storage unit was broken into, and I lost a lot of stuff. I stopped pricing how much the posters that got stolen would when I was like at 3 months rent. I'm like, nope, I'm just not going to replace these.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
and that's like original Star Trek posters.
Yeah, and the thing is that they hit all of the storage units in the same area, and they only took collectibles. Like they really knew what they wanted.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure it was an accident, but to me it felt like it was like a FU in the, as they left a plastic cup for Star Trek V in the middle of the nearly empty storage unit.
Oh, that's an FU.
Yeah, I think it was because that was inside of a box. I mean, yes.
That's a total FU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also stole my high school art, so I have no idea why they wanted that. But
well, that's the key. That's how you're going to find out who did it. Because you're going to look and you're going to find that artwork somewhere in the black market, and you're going to trace that steps. And they're going to be like, we got away with this 2 years ago, and you're going to show up on their doorstep with a phaser that's not going to be set to stun. It's going to be sent to whipping butt. That's what's going to happen, and it's going to be all traced back to your high school art.
I'm frustrated that I didn't know that it happened when it actually did happen, because it could have happened in the course of 2 months, because I didn't go visit my storage unit every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was never able to.
I had my comic books in storage back home, and I had a scare like that right before we were moving out to LA, and that's when I decided I couldn't leave them. I was going to leave them at home because it's a lot.
We talked about how many shelves you
had.
had.
I have a huge comic book collection. It takes up a lot of space. But one day I got a phone call from the and God bless them, the people at the storage place were great and they were on top of it, but they check every night for locks and they're like, there's no lock on your unit.
Ooh.
And I went, I'll be right there. And like it was the scariest hour that it took me to get there. And it turned out I think some guy had the wrong. I don't think it was, as far as I could see, nothing was stolen. The guy just had the wrong. He thought it was his. Busted the lock. Thought he lost his key. Realized it wasn't, and moved on. But that was then. I came home and said to my then girlfriend, now wife, like, unfortunately, we have to take my comics with me. Sorry, I'm not going to entrust these here in Chicago without. No, it's not going to happen.
Well, all the people who lost stuff at the place where I was at. Some of them had like the Marvel figurehead, those really expensive, like those sculpted heads.
Oh yeah, like the Alex Ross busts and stuff like that. Sure.
What happened was they
was this like, were you storing it like collectibles are stored or here? Or like
was
there like a big sign
I didn't
that
know
said,
how many.
It was a huge inside job. Everyone store your expensive geek collectibles here.
It was.
I promise nothing will go wrong. And leave the keys with me. I'll good for it.
No, I honestly don't know how they found out, but all the people who had stuff broken in, they had broke the locks and took all the locks because then and it makes me wonder if it was something from inside or management. It's like, well, we don't know that you didn't have a lock. You probably just didn't have a lock, and they just walked in and got. I'm like, I did not lock my storage unit.
Interesting.
Like all the people who had it broken into, none of us had locks.
Then that's that's 100% an inside job because that's a person who I worked at a movie theater and they broke in and there was a lot of the things about the break and they ended up catching the guy and sure enough it was one of the projectionists broke in. Yeah. Yeesh. And it was an inside job, but we knew that because we thought about it. We're like, they knew to take this and they knew to take that.
Yeah.
And they didn't destroy anything. They didn't break. Like there was all these signs that 100% this person knew what they were doing. They all your locks were missing.
Yeah.
They did that because then there's
no
whatever liability and 100%. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah. So I'm slowly rebuilding my collection with other stuff, which is it's annoying. It's not bad. And this is weird. I'm getting like some of the same books that I had, but they don't have like the same crease where I did. And and I know that's dumb, but it's like oh, this isn't the book that I grow up with.
Right,
for,
and
like,
then it's frankly it's not the book that you read either. Because I'm assuming you're collecting them, but not necessarily rereading them immediately.
Right.
So it's not the book that you read. It's just a book.
Yeah.
That's you do, however, have an opportunity though to kind of refresh your collection.
Yeah.
And to really look at it.
I didn't really need this.
And I'm not asking, knock on your wood panel den, I'm not asking for some craziness to happen with my comics, but there is a part of me that goes like, well, if I could start over, But unfortunately, you're having to start over without the collateral and the assets. That's a stinker.
Yeah.
But it's not a stinker.
This episode,
Worlds Without End Part 2.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm so stoked. I loved doing last episode with you.
The Joe in the High Castle, as we
we didn't forgot to coin that. So Aaron, your partner Mitchell coined it, I believe.
Yes.
Mitchell's a good friend. He's a great guy out here. Is it the Joe in the High Castle or the Cobra in the High Castle? What do you think?
Well, because it's the man in the High Castle,
right?
And I have not read that story for a very long time. I'm trying to remember if he's just the guy who guards the films that. I think he's just a guy. I don't know if he's good or bad. I think he's just so.
I like it. The Joe in the High Castle.
But the Cobra in the High Castle makes sense too.
Also good.
But the Joe is shorter, man.
No, I like it.
Now we're debating the semantics of it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
it's lost its charm. Move on.
No, it has not lost its charm. I will not let it go. But we are going to get into the episode. So, and if you're interested in learning more about Aaron Harvey, if you remember from last episode, he's a graphic designer. He's got a cover for the Green Lantern Star Trek crossover. That's coming out on February 15th. He's doing one of the variants covers. It's a beautiful black and green Hal Jordan flying through the sky with the Enterprise kind of projected out of his ring. Pick that up at your local comic shop. Find him at Geek Filter on Instagram and Twitter. And you can find me at Joe and Joe Pod on Instagram and Twitter, and send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Find me on Facebook, and if you're so inclined, you're out there, give me a review. If you're listening on iTunes, rate and review me. And as long as you're on iTunes, go over to Saturday Morning Trek and subscribe, because it's awesome. I did an episode with Aaron. We're not sure when it's going to air, but I guarantee you it's going to have the greatest ratings of any Saturday Morning Trek. It's going to have the greatest ratings. Huge ratings. It's going to be the greatest rated Saturday Morning Trek ever. And if not, it's not going to be my fault. It's not my fault, Aaron. It's not my responsibility. with that in mind, I'm so happy with my friend Aaron Harvey to get into episode part 2 of World Without End.
And.
So I love the G.I. Joe opening. I love the Star Trek opening. There's one thing I noticed when we were watching the Star Trek animated series with you, Aaron, on your episode. The in the logo, the words Star Trek are almost smaller than the name Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah. Well, Gene, everybody's like, Star Trek's a movement, it's a philosophy. It's like, yeah, it's a business. He was like, why are there lyrics to these Star Trek songs?
Yeah,
so every time it plays, he can get money for the copywriting of the lyrics that are never played.
Right.
So
do you know the lyrics? I'm sure you do.
Kinda.
You don't?
No, not like. Something about
is it like
Birds of the Galaxy?
Star Trek, nothing but Star Trek.
Yeah, that would be good. No,
it's funny. Literally, when the title card comes up, it's the name Gene Roddenberry is almost as large as Star Trek. So here we've got a little bit of recap going on right now.
During a struggle between G.I. Joe and Cobra, an accident triggers an experimental weapon. The Joes are plunged into unconsciousness, and when they awaken, the explosion has hurled them into an alternate reality, where some things are identical to our world, while others, like the disease-bearing insect that stings Steeler, are very, very different. Washington, D.C. has become the capital of an evil empire. Flint, Airtight, and Barbecue are captured by the Dreadnoks as enemies of the state. And Lady J, Clutch, and Footloose face doom in the skies as we begin part 2 of Worlds Without End.
Worlds Without End, part 2, written by Marty Pasco. We ended it with missiles flying at the Skyhawk that Lady J was in, and she avoids the missiles. But we're in a big Rattler Skyhawk fight over the city of Washington, D.C.
I think we actually had a Rattler too.
Rattlers are cool. Rattlers were very cool. What I liked about the Rattler was that they had the battle damage panels. Remember that?
Oh,
you could flip out. Yeah, so you had the regular that it looked brand new, and then. I mean,
I know it's not the Lincoln Memorial anymore, but they blew it up.
They blew up the Cobra Memorial. Yeah.
That could have been fixed after they dethroned them.
It could have been. It could have been. You know what's funny? The pilots that are jumping out of the
I love this. By the way, the
reflecting pond is
not
like
that deep.
a foot deep. Like if you saw Forrest Gump, Jenny ran through it.
Yes.
And it just swallowed an entire Rattler.
Yeah.
The Cobras, the Vipers that are flying out of those Vipers that are falling out of the Rattlers, those are typically the Firebat Vipers.
Okay.
I forget the exact Viper designation for them, but they're the ones who fly the Firebats. But you can't have 3 different wild weasels jump out. So there's bread lines. You've got Dreadnoks escorting the Joes in their Dreadnought cop car.
I'm assuming this was, since it's the 80s, was sort of a metaphor for Russia at this point. The kind of the
I think
bread
so.
lines, some of that.
Totally. I think totally. I think a lot of just the they live kind of reaction against consumerism and this is what a totalitarian state would be like.
Kind of Sliders too. There was a couple episodes.
Oh,
yeah, sure. Into worlds like that.
Sure, yeah. So the Joes are making their escape. They're messing up the Dreadnoks. Nice crash. But again, one thing we always talk about the show: Cobra's on point with branding.
Yeah,
there are Cobra signals.
Well, and
when we get to the everywhere.
When we get to the end of this episode, I have a comment about that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't go fight Cobra. We fight them. They fight. Oh, hopeless. No point. Either side will ever win.
So Steelers, he's staggering through this blown out landscape outside of the destroyed pit. Grunt shows up to kind of rescue him, and Steelers really the animation on his illness is crazy good. He's got
his acting not so much.
He's awesome. He's a total lunatic.
I love the way he runs.
Yeah. And you've got a Cobra soldier flying over with a giant VHS recorder video camera relaying a camera shot back to the Baroness.
Yes.
Who we saw very briefly in the first episode. And
with her sexy Baroness.
Very sexy.
Yeah.
So
there she is.
Yeah, and this time they gave her pants. Because when they first drew her, the Baroness's female assistant, they did not put pants on her.
Imperial.
I think that's
It's
Watergate.
Cobra Gate. It's Watergate.
Watergate.
Oh my gosh!
It's
I did
Watergate.
not notice that the first time.
Yeah. Cobra's headquarters is Watergate.
That's great.
I love it so much. And the biggest difference, I think we all agree, in alternate realities, so in Star Trek, when Kirk and Spock, they do the mirror universe, they get goatees.
Yep.
In G.I. Joe, when we go to the alternate universe, the Baroness no longer needs glasses.
Ah, I did not notice
That's the big difference.
Okay.
That is the big difference. So the Baroness does not wear glasses.
Maybe the glasses are an affectation in our.
Oh, or maybe her evilness.
I love this when the panel was like. Apparently now the Washington Monument is
oh my God!
metal.
Wait a minute! Holy cow! I just dawned on me. What we just saw.
Yes.
I never realized. I did an Ashcan comic book. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's just like an 8-pager, and it was fun and whatever. But one of the things I had a radar dish coming out the top of the link of the Washington Monument. Exactly.
That's great.
Totally. And
It must be subconscious.
It's total subconscious. I guarantee I must have ripped it off from this, but I had, and it looked exactly like that. That's exactly how I drew it. Oh
That's
my God,
funny.
that's amazing! I'll scan that and throw it up.
I'm thinking that this is like the Tholian web. You know, if we're gonna do a Star Trek die.
Oh, okay. I don't even. You just said a word. I don't even know what that a Tholian web.
It was kind of a web that was created by spaceships that was kind of a blocked you in.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I'm down with that.
And I can't remember if it did actually absorb.
Well,
energy, but
we have another gravity break with gravity once again rearing its ugly head
Yes.
here in G.I. Joe. So we go into commercial with Lady J falling to her death. Today's Filecard Feature is on the G.I. Joe VAMP driver, codenamed Clutch. His file name is Lance J. Steinberg, and his primary military specialty is transportation. Secondary military specialty is the infantry. His birthplace, good old Asbury Park, New Jersey. Greetings, Clutch. He's a grade E4. Clutch was a mechanic at Manny's Mean Machines and was heavily involved in racing street machines prior to enlistment. He graduated advanced infantry training, covert ops school, executive bodyguard school, ranger school, qualified expert in the M14, M16, M1911A1, the M3A1, the M79, and the M60. He greases his hair with motor oil, rarely shaves, and chews on the same toothpick for months. Clutch still calls women chicks. Clutch doesn't take too many things seriously. He's constantly thinking about cars and women, nothing more. Nothing less. He drives fast, fights hard, and pulls off maneuvers that would leave most men cringing in their boots. But if you need a hard, dedicated wheelman, Clutch should be the first name on the list. Clutch is a Bruce Springsteen song, come to life, period. And I love Bruce Springsteen, and therefore I love Clutch. He is definitely New Jersey. He was featured actually quite a bit in the early G.I. Joe issues of the Marvel comic book. There was a great issue where they were driving the Vamp. They were going to the Jersey Shore, and I think rock and roll was involved. Clutch drove the Vamp, which was the Jeep. He originally came packaged with it. Years later, they called him Double Clutch in one of the updated G.I. Joe figure reissue series. That's probably due to some kind of licensing issue because the name Clutch is pretty generic. It's kind of like how Marvel has to put, Marvel's the Avengers on everything. I love Clutch. He is an absolute walking Bruce Springsteen song. Even on his file card where they talk about the Mean Machine. He's, cars and women, nothing more. Probably drives by rivers a lot and reservoirs and lakes. He has a healthy disdain for governmental authority and probably works down at the factory, perhaps at the docks, and reminisces about old times quite a bit. And so Clutch, Lance J. Steinberg, at Bruce Springsteen's wet dream, we salute you.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
So this energy Tholian web crushed the Skyhawks, and the Joes are now falling. But we're gonna,
and now we have Thundar the Barbarian.
yeah,
slave people.
totally. It's a very Planet of the Apesy look.
That I did not notice before.
Rations. They've turned the Washington Mall into a slave labor camp.
Heck of a way to solve unemployment.
Heck of a way to solve unemployment.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a good. That's a good line.
That's a great line.
If Cobra just showed up one day and they took over, would you sign? I don't think I could.
No.
I think
I would hope that we wouldn't.
I would. I feel like I would want to rebel, just to say when it's all over to say that I rebelled.
Yeah.
Because
you're not going to have a great life with these people
no,
one way
it's
or
gonna be
another
terrible.
anyway.
It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be terrible. And the flip side is,
I don't believe they let us get away with this.
no. I think at the end of it, I'd be like, no, I served my time in the camp, or I mean, and maybe you don't live okay, but It's kind of like Red Dawn, like when they take over. Like
Yeah.
you got to fight against it. Which is one of the reasons why, I really don't mean to get too political into it. It's one of the reasons why I'm not being quiet about this current election stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to normalize it. It's not a normal thing.
No.
There's too
It's
much,
not alt-right. It's white supremacy.
Yeah, there's too much stuff like that, and there's too much that and actual collusion with freaking Russia.
Yeah.
Like those are important things to not normalize, people. This isn't a normal right-left argument, and to want to make it that is wrong. Like there's something seriously wrong with things. So I think that's important, and I think that ties in with what G.I. Joe's doing.
Yes.
Like really not to get super political, but to actually tie in with what the show is. It's not right. This isn't a conservative viewpoint or a leftist conservative viewpoint. Right. It's literally that was
I love
great.
That. Yeah. Like that's
this is literally
a little luck.
Bad social ideas taking charge.
Did you see the butt on the Baroness riding the horse?
There was a butt on the
Wow.
Baroness. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Baroness got back.
Baroness does have back. She's the original kitten, man. Baroness a good-looking dame. I'm a little disappointed that they have Cobra Commander in his regular outfit.
Yeah,
I kind of wish that he had an alternate
or they
look.
could have had like because
he does have a cape. Yeah, he sometimes does wear like something just to show that like he's like king of the world.
This is similar in some ways to this. Oh, that's also a Star Trek sound effect.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, but when they spin it around, like there was one with Kirk where they spin it really quickly and he turns it. They copy him and make a robot or whatever.
Yes,
that's what this reminds me of. It's also not going very fast.
No, it's really not.
I'm like,
but
I could do this.
Still, that's enough to make me puke. He's got the Joe's strap to. We actually never saw how they survived falling from the Skyhawk.
Nope, not really.
Well, you know what? If that net that they're in,
sort of.
Hopefully, I mean, if that can stop the machines, I'm assuming it would grab them.
Yeah,
Steeler's out of his mind.
Yes, sir.
But I think this animation is great. Like it's really good facial expressions. Like lots of good close-up detail and everything. Like it's awesome. So Grunt and Steeler are just wrestling in the.
At this point is when it was already sent overseas, probably, the animation.
Oh, it's definitely...
That's one of the reasons Filmation closed, is they refused to send stuff overseas. They wanted to keep all of the families in Reseda, California, and other people who lived here.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so I thought it was a good way to go out if they were
Lou
going to...
Lou Scheimer, right?
Yeah.
Filmation. He is awesome.
Yeah.
Everything I've not read, it was... Your friend Andy wrote that book about him, right? Yeah, and Filmation...
The Filmation Generation.
Filmation Generation.
Yep.
I've not read that book yet, but it's on my radar to get. But I've always loved everything I've read about Lou Scheimer and all the interviews with him with Masters of the Universe stuff.
Nope. Here we're stumbling across the...
Oh no! This is the big scene.
No.
So Grunt and Steeler just came across a bunch of skeletons of Joes.
I wonder what he was like. He was crawling away. I'm like, are you scared? And you're just turning lights on. Okay.
No. And he turns the Awestriker's lights on it. And they're G.I. Joe skeletons, and they're dressed suspiciously like they are.
Yes.
So we look at the
Which
first
they don't
one,
notice.
The first set of dog tags.
But that's Clutch's name.
And we're going to look at the next one.
Graves? R.W.? Graves? That's
you.
And who's this last one?
I know I ain't dead. These guys must have been the Joe team from this world.
Oh my gosh. Like this is
That's it.
crazy mind-blowing stuff.
Who's that one? Pulaski.
It's me.
So Steeler flips out because he finds his own dead body. And as he crawls out of the pit, a vehicle pulls up, and it's his tank.
And did you notice the sound effect of the door?
Is that the door opening?
The Star Trek door as
Yeah.
the thing flies open.
And it's the Baroness's lady partner.
Whatever she
which
is.
in the long shots, by the way, in some of the long shots, she's not wearing pants.
Yeah.
And then when they go close, they color her blue.
Yeah.
Because they realized we can't have a woman running around in panties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have we have another continuity error with the clothing of the Baroness, which I'll point out, which I thought was kind of fun.
One of the things about this episode that appeals to me as well is that there are 3 distinct plot lines going on.
Yeah, it is really nicely interwoven.
Yep.
You
And
don't get bored with one of them either, which I thought was really nice.
You do not.
Yeah.
And they're not like going after a MacGuffin. They're trying to save their lives.
Yep.
But they're all okay, they're stuck in another stasis.
Yes, yes,
Stasis, right? Yeah, it's a little
it's
crazy.
a
It's
fly
like
trap.
Jello. It's like
yeah.
energy Jello.
And the Jello.
Yeah, Jello. But there's 3 distinct storylines.
Yep.
And they're all trackable and they're all
We're
important.
in another world, you said.
Uh-huh. And it looks like this Baroness thinks you're the stealer of this world. And that's not all. She...
And here we're about to meet.
She's in a bathroom.
She is totally in a bathrobe. Like, how? Like,
Yes, and they're
Like-
apparently dating.
yeah, no glasses.
Lovers.
Lovers. Oh, it's her beloved.
Yes.
But I love, like, why do you have to change into your bathrobe?
Well, because, she's getting some
You know,
Joe
something
loving.
more comfortable. Yeah, it's true. It's
But you are
gonna be some
one of
Baroness on Joe.
them. Cobra. Aren't you?
How can you say that? You know whose side I'm really on.
I'm wearing the bathrobe.
Yeah.
She
Look,
looks
when
like
I
Lily Munster. Kind of.
when I put the glasses
Yeah,
on,
that-
I'm evil.
Yeah.
But my glasses are off now.
You mean you're like a double agent?
Double agent.
More like a quadruple
yeah.
You secretly work for the Resistance?
This is just a lot to absorb for Steve.
Yeah.
Here.
Just a Polish kid from Pittsburgh. It's a lot to absorb.
You must believe us, Commander.
That's true. Especially he's basically a grunt. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, totally. There's one element.
Not grunt,
of-
but-
yeah, right. That was the other guy.
Yeah.
There's one element of this that I do. I don't mean to say wish because I okay, that was magical.
Yeah.
But
that was a.
they don't play into the like the fact that the Baroness and Destro were lovers,
Yeah.
and now in this world they're not. Like I wish there would be a little bit of that, a little bit more of like what, like why is she with Steeler and not with
That it just
Destro?
never was?
Yeah. So we're going to commercial with the 3 Joes in custody, Cobra Commander getting attacked by robot snakes.
G.I. Joe is beating them. We need a new plan, Destro. A night attack. Night attack and Major Blood will lead.
Major Blood is a dangerous foe, trained by Destro, the enemy of G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, American hero, fighting Cobra and Destro.
They chased us off and captured a Cobra officer. That's part of my plan.
What does Destro mean? Follow the further adventures of G.I. Joe in Marvel Comics. Now, back to G.I. Joe.
Because in any dimension, robot snakes are terrifying.
Yes. Although these look like they're more like robot snake accessories. They
yeah,
just sort of
they're,
hang
well, they're
on
like
them.
constrictors.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I saw on the interwebs a snake straight up consuming, not a kangaroo. What's the other hopping animal? Not a kangaroo. The other hopping animal that has a pouch from Australia.
Some kind of marsupial.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, it was not small.
Not wallaby. No, I don't remember.
Yeah, wallaby.
Yeah.
A wallaby.
Okay.
Yes, it was not small. And this snake had it in its mouth.
Ah.
It was so frightening. This snake was so stretched out. It was crazy.
So
Look, that's from my comic, I swear to God.
Right. So has the Washington Monument been replaced like a gold? Because it is a different color.
It is
completely.
gold. Well, you know
I
what?
wonder if they just literally replaced it.
I think in all great dictatorial regimes, they like to plate things in gold.
Yeah?
If you know what I'm saying.
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. So I have a feeling we're going to be looking at a gold-plated Washington Monument in 2019.
We have a timeline running out.
Yeah. Well, first the wall gets built,
Yeah.
and then in 2018 we do the redo the Senate with the Cobra head. And in 2019 we gold plate the Washington Monument.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's going to end up looking like Titan's Tower too. By the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean that makes sense.
Yep.
Footloose.
I love this. Like, I have plate glass that's made out of
sugar
glass.
glass. Yeah.
You don't have to do that in a cartoon. You know, you can make it more.
Footloose swings and the robot snake slides off him, but now these other snakes are just they're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I lost interest.
I think that they're slave to the computer that was destroyed. And now they're doing the Olympics.
Yeah.
Ring.
This is where it's moments like this where I know I would not survive whatever apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because the day I have to support myself, free hung, swing into a room from dangling after dangling for half hour, you know, with all the energy, all the blood drained out of you.
No, it's
I'm dead. Good night.
Yep.
I'm not surviving the apocalypse.
Oh, you hear?
Steeler, My Stealer has a tattoo on his right arm.
What?
Dad,
First of all,
pretty sure your Stealer really is
that
dead.
is that. No, I guess they've shown Gung Ho's tattoo. I was like, because Gung Ho,
I
there's
thought
not
that
a
was
lot of
odd 'cause
tattoo
it's like
recognition.
there was just one thing that had switched.
Yeah.
It wasn't like everybody had stuff on their right. You know, the GI Joe,
Right.
Like the what is it? The,
Like
the
their
name
heart-
of their is
yeah.
on the right hand side instead of the left. So
Right.
Lady,
it's kind of interesting.
all we're fighting for now is to find our
So
buddies
the Baroness
back
realizes
where
that
we
the
belong.
story they told him really are from another, and so she's going to have to help him.
Yes. So
Or
now that
is she? Or is she though?
Yeah.
Because
that's true. When I watched this when I was a kid, I was like, I don't know about this.
Because now she knows it's not her loved one.
Right.
So does she really have the solidarity with him? Mm-hmm. Possibly could she turn him into Destro and Cobra Commander? Ooh. This red light technology, I'm going to throw this out there. I think that's the key to Cobra taking over everything.
Yeah.
Because they've used it in everything they've needed to get done here has utilized that hard light. It's like they got themselves a Red Lantern ring.
Or is red matter from like the J.J. Abrams stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think there's something to that.
That must be,
I think
yeah.
there's something to that
because we don't see that otherwise.
Nope.
So some sort of Weather Dominator spin-off or something.
And I've got a big question that we're going to get into when we get to the credits of the show.
Okay.
Remind me if I don't bring it up. But I got a real big question that's key to all this.
Okay.
We shall see about that. Tend to these prisoners, Baroness.
I will. Destro.
That's like
They just the Joes just gave a thumbs up to each other to say like wink wink we're cool.
Yeah.
Except in full view of every other Cobra that's in that room. Like I'm a Cobra soldier and I see one of the quote prisoners going like, "Hey dude, we're all right." I'm like, "That's a little weird."
Here we are now sowing the seeds of a civil war against Cobra.
Yep.
So she's got Destro thinking that Cobra thinking that Destro is trying to take over.
Exactly.
Okay, now here, watch coming up. You'll have the Baroness showing up, and she's in her bathrobe.
She is totally
on the
in
tank,
her bathrobe,
and
on her
now
tank.
she's back into a regular uniform.
That's so funny. It makes me think. Here's what it
Maybe
makes.
she just whipped it off.
No, it makes me think. It makes me think that initially it was just Flint on that drawing, and they realized they needed her, and so they had a drawing of her in that pose.
And this is what I was talking about. Like they have flags ready for this
Flags,
insurrection
right,
that
of
started
course.
like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, and they're really well designed flags. There's lightning bolts coming
Yep.
off their heads, and they're ready for an insurrection.
Yeah.
It was a powder keg waiting to go.
So I think that was great.
Yeah. So the Joes have all gathered, and they find the portal where they first came through.
Yeah, it should just be around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
We missed it before. That's why I love
exactly,
it. Every single time travel show or dimensional every one when they have to go, they end up going where they were. No one noticed it when they first came through.
Right.
So all the Joes are jumping through,
Flint,
and here we
it
go.
really
this is
does matter whether
huge.
Cobra wins or loses.
Let's listen to what Steeler
I
says.
see that now, and I want a chance to do something about it. I'm staying here.
Well, count me in too, old buddy.
That's Grunt.
I ain't letting you hog all the glory.
Flint, I heard what they did to me. I mean, the other
And that's
Clutch.
Clutch.
And you want to stay too?
Flint's
we have
like,
to retire toy line.
Flint is sighing because of all the freaking paperwork that he's going to have to fill out. He's like, I don't even know how to categorize alternate realities. And you're not dead. You're not missing in action. I know where you're at.
Yeah.
You're not KIA. You're not technically AWOL, but you really are. You're deserting our cause to go help these guys. But it's so cool. It's so noble. Like I love that those three stayed behind. And they emerged in the water like hours later.
Yeah.
So they assume they're all dead. Doc's there, which we haven't seen Doc in a good few episodes.
There's some place where brave men are needed.
Brave men are needed. Doc's like Doc having no idea what's like.
Yeah, I was like,
what are they dead?
Yeah.
In Doc and Duke's world, they're either dead or alive, but they're not there.
Yeah.
So they're dead. But I listen. We just watched my favorite Joes. This is Aaron. This is great. Thank you for going through this with me.
You're welcome.
So here's my question.
Okay.
What happened to Copperhead? Copperhead was the Cobra. He's the water moccasin pilot.
Okay.
He's the one who was holding the machine in the first place.
Oh, right.
He was on the bridge with those Joes. He must have gone into that other world.
Maybe
what
he's
happened
still-
in Copperhead.
Do we see Copperhead later in the?
We do. He shows. I believe he shows up on the cartoon. But my question is, what was Copperhead's adventure during all this? Because let's say Copperhead went through the other side.
Or he got sent to another universe altogether.
Maybe he went. Yeah. What? Seriously, where's Copperhead?
He stayed behind in a universe where G.I. Joe had conquered Cobra, and he's trying to help Reno. I don't know.
I want that answered.
Well, maybe he didn't go anywhere. Maybe he just got knocked down and he was in the water, and they.
But he was standing right next. I mean, he was literally right next to everyone else.
Yeah, I don't know why.
There's
But
no good.
It was being radiated out from him.
No, but I mean, they did the whole bridge.
Yeah.
There's no good reason why Copperhead
No.
isn't in the other dimension with him. Where's Copperhead?
He would have showed up right there. He would have been there too.
Yeah,
so.
he should have. Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. I think we have to chalk that up to this is a children's television cartoon show.
No. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna write a slash fiction.
Well, Marty Pasco is still around.
I'm gonna Google. We're gonna tweet out to Marty Pasco. We are. We're gonna tweet because I love this episode so much. Thoughts?
To me, it's a cool science fiction story. Like, even if you didn't know G.I. Joe, you could get the idea of what's going on. The whole, just their shock of like finding out, and I like the twist on like, is the Baroness really, a sympathizer or not? Because that was my first thought when I was like 13 when I saw this. Right?
It's not until you get the huge thumbs up
Yeah.
right in front of everybody.
Well, and the joke for us was like the thumbs up is like, yeah, I'll take care of them. It's like, yeah, let's go have some Baroness time, So no, I really really enjoyed this.
Yeah, man, me too, man. It goes. I mean, yeah, just accolades on accolades.
As far as
I don't think it gets.
cartoons
I don't
from
think
this
it
time
gets better.
period, this is up there with anime and stuff that came out at the same time with as far as story goes.
Yeah, and taking serious subjects and really making like what would happen.
I mean,
and
you
it's
had
life
dead
and death
peop-
stuff.
Yeah,
You have skeletons.
literally.
Yeah.
And there's also the whole message of, why are we doing this? This is stupid. It's like, it's like, what difference could it really make? Well, things can make a really big difference.
One man
Yep.
can make a difference. Yeah,
Yep.
I love it so much. So, Aaron, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
This has been great. Remember, you guys can find Aaron at Geek Filter on social media. It's Instagram and Twitter. Find me at Joe on Joe Pod. And
Leave him a review.
Leave me a review. And then listen to Saturday Morning Trek and leave Saturday Morning Trek a review. Listen to everything on Trek FM. If you're a Star Trek fan, if you're not a Star Trek fan, become one and then listen to everything on Trek FM.
Well, we do try, even if you're drug into listening to something because a friend or a partner is the person who likes it. We try and have some generalities of other. It's a fun listen to, even if you don't.
It really is. You've got a very well produced program, I will
Thank you.
say, and it is always enjoying. And half the time, I gotta be honest, I don't know some of the references because I don't know every episode. But it's an enjoyable discussion about the stuff that you guys.
Thank you very
the
much.
topics you're talking about. So, and it's really well done and well made. So, best of luck and huge podcast success to you, sir.
Thank you, as you as well.
Awesome. So thanks for listening, everybody. Now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.